nice. I like it.
Windage good.
You ready?
And considering the price, it's very, very good.
Okay, so what I'm seeing is exact perfect tracking up and down, which is surprising to me from a scope coming from China. I don't know what they adjusted in their mechanisms to let that happen.
There has to be a market for upscale products that super perform, but there also has to be a market for very reasonably priced products that perform well.
Howdy guys, Rex here. We're taking a look at the Athlon ARES ETR 4.5 to 30 by 56 rifle scope. This is the improved version of the ARES BTR. This has a fully revamped turret system. Completely different animal than what was previously available. This is something that really changes the ball game. This is the first scope I've seen out of Asia that actually tracks on par with the stuff out of Germany. You look at the tier 1 German glass like the Schmidt-Benders, the Steiners, the Hensoldts. This one really gives them a run for the money, but at like a third or a fourth the cost. And that was something that I was very hesitant to release my endorsement on immediately because I wanted to verify this. I had to go back through my notes. We do a lot of training classes and compare notes, and we do tracking tests on every scope that comes through the class. For the most part, when we have our live fire events at the Rex Defense courses. And after a close inspection of prior performance experience by various students and also observations I made on the line, I was able to determine that it was no joke that these things are really performing as advertised. And that's something that's actually very breakthrough because as you guys who are students on the channel here who watch regularly, you probably heard that it's very difficult for the Asian design, being a 3-piece adjustment mechanism on the erector, to accomplish tracking precision. Now, a lot of the Chinese scopes will give you pretty good tracking reliability, but in all honesty, you're going to see an average of 2 to 3% at least error in the tracking precision. So if you give it 100 clicks, it might, give you 97 actual units of adjustment. And so that's something that I wanted to figure out exactly how they got this thing exactly on. And when I say exactly on, we ran this through the full elevation tracking test, not just out to 7.5 mils, but all the way through the entire extent of the elevation tracking. And it was like exactly dead on accurate in terms of your elevation adjustments. Something that I found very interesting. So there's quite a bit of a story here. We'll share that in a minute, but first let's go over the general specifications. This scope is actually in the affordable price range of just over $1,000. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, depending on what kind of deal you might be able to find. It's loaded with a lot of the features that most long-range precision shooters have grown to love now. Especially in the last few years, people are catching on that there are certain feature sets that are conducive to the long-range precision game and helping them out in that particular task. This thing has, of course, your locking windage turret with a true zero stop on the elevation turret. And all this one doesn't have your Apple chromatically corrected glass. It does have very high quality extra dispersion ED lenses that to even a discerning eye are very, very difficult to tell apart from some of the APO glass. If you're looking at the real high-end HD glass, it's a very sharp, real good color rendition, very good focus, very, very good image. It's constructed with the 34 millimeter main tube. The magnification is actually usable, 4.5 to 30 power. The reticle is actually balanced out in a nice way to where when you crank it up to 30 power, it's actually still very sharp and crisp. And at 4.5 power, it's you can still see see it. And especially if you use the Illumination, it has a 56 millimeter lens. The tube diameter, like we said, is 34 millimeters, so you can use a lot of the rings that you're going to use on your other Tier 1 optics. This is a first focal plane reticle, of course, and his field of view, at least in a linear fashion, is going to be 3.75 to 24.5 feet at 100 yards from the lowest magnification to the highest magnification. The parallax is adjustable as close as 25 yards, and you can go out to infinity. The length of the optic is 15.3. If you look at the contours of this scope, it's actually a very good design. You can tell just by the proportionality of the scope that they're going to get the best bang for the buck with this contour. Your focal lengths are not compressed like you're going to see in some of those compact designs, but it's actually going to be a nicely configured scope for giving you really good optical clarity. That's something we've talked about in other videos. If you don't know what we're talking about, go ahead and check out all our videos on optics and explaining how that works with the proportionality and evolution of rifle scopes. But the more compressed you get with a rifle scope, the more curvature they have to put on the lenses, the more difficult it becomes to get everything nice and crisp. So if you have the classic lines, the longer design, very similar in proportion to the Schmidt-Bender PM2s or the classic hunting scopes, it's actually very easy for them to engineer that and execute that design as well in the factory, and gives them a lot more wiggle room to where you can still have a very, very good quality image, and everything can be placed correctly in the focal length, and it's a good optic without breaking the bank. So like I said a second ago, the ED glass, it's an extra low dispersion glass, and it does actually significantly reduce the chromatic aberration, giving you a good sharp image. And even the hands of some of my good friends that I truly respect, who have been doing this for a long time and have been using the top-notch stuff in the world, we all compared notes, and these are really nice for the money especially. The first focal plane reticle, as most of you probably already know, makes it very easy to use that reticle at any magnification setting. You don't have to do any kind of math to adjust for that. So a mil is always going to be a mil on the reticle no matter what magnification you're at. That's a very nice feature. The reticle also offers quick target engagement at low power while offering precise holdover positions with finer details. So if you look at the reticle design here, it's actually a nicely designed reticle. The lines aren't too thick. It's easy to read. You have a center dot that's actually very nice and clean for your precise shots when you get dialed in. Also, if you go up the reticle, up the vertical spine above the crosshairs, you can see that you have, for the first mil, you have 0.2 mil subtension marks. Then after that, you have every half mil marked. And as you go off to the sides laterally, every 2 mils is marked with a number, and then in between you have 0.2 mils in between each one of those. As you work your way down, it's that Christmas tree style pattern reticle, as what most people refer to that as. It kind of grows from the apex and widens as you go lower, allowing you a little more windage hold off for longer ranges. The full 1 mil marks are a little bit heavier of a dot, and then you have a smaller dot every 0.2 milliradians apart. And then on the spine of the reticle, you have hash marks and half mil marks as well. And so everything is numbered very clearly, easy to see where you're at. Not a bad reticle. That's the APR S1 FFP IR mil reticle is what they call it. Very good design. Of course, reticle is etched in the glass, which allows them to give you that more complex reticle design and offer good durability and a much higher shock resistance recoil than the old school reticles like you'd see back in the old days. It has the advanced fully multi-coated optics that reduces reflected light. This actually did work pretty good at dawn and dusk, kind of shooting into the sun a little bit. The transmission, you didn't get any kind of ridiculous glaring or any kind of issues at dusk and dawn that you'll have on some of the other lenses that aren't coated well. And these lenses actually feature what they call XPL coating, which gives you a little bit extra protection and hardens that outer exterior of the lens. So if you have abrasive dirt, which dirt is basically an abrasive material for the most part, and it's going to scratch up your lenses, particularly when you try to wipe it off, this will give you a lot of resistance to that. Oil and scratches, anything else is not going to really be as much of a problem with that hardened coating. Very nice feature that they put in there. This does have a precision zero stop system that allows you to lock down your zero position and dial back with a very sharp and precise stop right at your zero mark. Even if you're turning it in pitch black, dark conditions, there's no doubt where the zero stop is. It's not mushy. It doesn't get mushed out on the end. It's just a very, very abrupt mechanical obvious stop. And this scope actually features, this is one of the major upgrades to this particular model, what they call the high precision erector system, which is basically a highly precision CNC machine stainless steel mechanism that's within plus or minus 0.0001 millimeters of tolerance. Okay, that's a very, very good tolerance level. And that's going to provide you also with a very, very accurate power settings and a smooth magnification change. And this is something that surprisingly, actually, when we did the extreme cold weather testing, this thing actually performed very good, even at very, very cold weathers like negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit. The scope is made out of 6061 T6 aluminum. That's that aircraft grade stuff. It has pretty exceptional strength and superior mechanical integrity. This scope also features what they're calling the exposed tactical direct dial, which is the elevation and windage adjustments that gives you that quick adjustment needed. Of course, we're going to talk more about the actual mechanism itself in just a minute. That's one of the high points of the optic I found very unique that gives this one a clear edge over its competition. And the scope also features a one-piece tube construction, which is heat treated, and it's going to give you a lot more strength than a one that has multiple pieces on the tube. And with this scope's very rugged and robust mechanical system, with special designs on both the control and erector system, it's going to give you a pretty good recoil resistance as well. I know that it was tested up to 1,000 times with 1,000 Gs. And this particular optic is argon purged. It's an inert gas that gives you them bigger molecules to purge out any moisture out of the tube, giving you a really better waterproofing and thermal stability than you're going to find in some of the other optics as well. So let's take a look at some of the main things that I found were very, very interesting about this scope right off the bat. Besides, just the obvious quality difference that you're going to see, this is an optic that is actually made in China. And it is something that I didn't expect to have the quality that I saw. And as you guys know, for years, the pressure on the Chinese market was in sporting optics. That's where they made most of their money. So most of the Chinese optics manufacturing industry was catering to the sporting scope market. You got those over-the-counter scopes you can buy at the hardware store or Walmart or Kmart, or the stuff that's under $100. And that's a lot of where the industry in China for years, all through the 90s, particularly in the 80s before that, was really catering to. Good quality glass is something they did develop during that phase in the 80s and 90s, because that was something that hunters needed to be able to identify targets hiding in the field. Was good quality optics. The actual quality of the image was very important to hunters. Having a precise erector system was not something that the hunting market really had on optics. Basically, as most of you are probably aware of, if you're just running a duplex reticle and hunting deer out to point blank range, maybe 200-300 yards max, all you need is a duplex. As long as you can get it zeroed and hit it with a screwdriver a few times, it was fine. So the precision rifle market is something that has not really been executed perfectly up until now in the Asian scope market. And I'm surprised that this came out of China with these abilities. And this is something that in the initial test, we did a review. We did post that actually live from the field because I was so surprised to see how well this thing tracked. And we only did a test out to about 1,000 yards worth of dope, 7.5 mils test. We did a repeatability check and a return to zero check. And we dialed up and down from 0 to 7.5, from 0 to 7.5, from 0 to 7.5. And we had two very, very nice tight groups with a high degree of resolution to really confirm that the tracking was in fact dead on accurate. Something that was actually, after all the time we've spent in the field at the RX 1000, RX 100 classes where students are taking their scopes out there, we've got a very good feel for how a lot of the different brands and optics manufacturers do in the field in terms of tracking precision. And this is something that I haven't seen except in that top-end German stuff. And after going back through my notes, looking back on a few of the what I thought were anomalies because they were scopes made in China. At some of the classes, there were a few students that had these optics. And looking at my notes again, I'm starting to see that, wow, these things have consistently tracked good the whole time. And it was something that a guy overlooked. He thought it was an anomaly. Sometimes, even a broken clock is right 2 times a day. So that's what I assumed was going on with this optic. I never really spent a lot of time looking at it. When I got this one in for review, I was told by several people to really check that out, and they were very curious to see what my opinion would be. And upon doing the tracking test, I was kind of floored. I thought, holy smokes, these things actually consistently give you that good tracking, which is very, very hard to understand, especially if you understand the design of how these erectors are built and how the adjustment mechanisms are built. If you look at the German Wetzlar 5-piece mechanism, the geometry of the arms that move the erector system are configured in such a way that give you that precise tracking all throughout the entire range of the adjustment of the turret. And that's something I wanted to confirm before I release a video as well. So at the last course we did, we just finished up the RX 3000 ELR course at Hawks Double Mountain Ranch in West Texas. And we did full vertical tracking tests throughout the entire adjustment range of the scope. What you'll see a lot of times is that, if out to, 7 or 10 mils, you will catch a broken scope, but you're not going to really get a true ascertain of whether or not that scope is truly tracking with good precision or not, unless you take it out to the extreme ends of the adjustment range. Now, there's a couple different tests you can do in terms of tracking, obviously. The return to zero, where you actually shoot in the rifle and you dial up and down, and you're verifying that it has tracking reliability. You can also get a small degree of an idea of the precision at 7 or 10 mils of adjustment, but to really get a clear picture of the scope's performance, you have to go farther than that. So we did the full vertical tracking test, and even at the maximum elevation, it was 100% on. As far as we could discern, it wasn't even line widths off in terms of your vertical tracking. At the very end of the adjustment range, you see a tiny bit of lateral dispersion, just a little bit, which is actually very similar to what you're going to find even in some of the German optics. The only one that I'm aware of that I've ever seen that doesn't give you that tiny bit of lateral throw off at the end, that little bit of horizontal dispersion at the very end of the tracking, and that just has to do with the geometry of these mechanisms pushing basically on a round tube, was the Schmidt and Bender PM2. Even some of the other high quality German stuff does that a little bit, but this thing kept up, and it was right in that category of that mid-tier 1 optics. And so that was something I thought, how in the world do you accomplish that with only a 3-piece mechanism? Because if you look at the geometry, it's very hard to do. And upon further inspection, I did ask a lot of questions. I was able to interrogate quite a few different folks on the issue, and I was really, really curious with Athlon as well. And they're very helpful in bringing me up to speed on the evolution of the industry in terms of what's going on behind the scenes. And they actually executed the 3-piece design in such a way to give you these results. So after a lot of different questions, we found out that Athlon does a very good job in the inspection end. So when they get the scopes back from China, this particular model's made in China, they actually put it on collimeters to inspect them. Now, of course, these are all made by humans, so inspecting them and having inspection rates where you check every scope coming off the boat is going to filter out any problems that might have occurred during the manufacturing process. So it's a very, very good quality control final check. But the amazing thing is that the actual design itself and the engineering behind it is what's giving it its high performance. And the quality control is really just a net to make sure nothing sneaks past the cracks. And if you look at the screws on the Ares ETR, this is the upgrade from the older version Ares. They're made out of stainless steel. They're precision CNC machined, and the exact dimensions on the threads of the screws are inspected to very, very high standards. We'll just put it like that without getting into too much detail. And so they've really remachined and re-equipped the factories and really upped their game in terms of inspecting and being able to measure the exact threads on those adjustment mechanisms to make sure that the tracking lines up with reality. And the engineering was executed properly with the good tooling, and they give you the results that you see here. And dead on, balls accurate. I was very surprised to see that. It was something I wanted to reconfirm when we went to the RX 3000. There's actually a student there who is using the Ares ETR on his Bergara rifle, and it worked out very well. We were making hits to a mile and beyond, no problem with his rifle, and it was just a great setup. And so it's just another piece of evidence to throw into the pile that I've observed over time that they really did find the solution. To my understanding, the word around the campfire is that Athlon has a very good relationship with the actual manufacturers, and they were able to communicate the new precision rifle market pressures to the manufacturers. And after being able to effectively communicate those pressures, the Chinese market did step up to the challenge, and they figured out what they needed to figure out in terms of getting the machinery up to date and getting everything up to spec to deliver what people wanted in terms of an actual mathematically correct, precise turret tracking. And so that's something that I thought was incredible. That does actually, from a long-range shooting perspective, make things a little more simple. There are some ballistic softwares that still don't offer you that adjustment or correction, because most optics that do come out of Asia are going to be off a little bit. Typically, they're going to track a little bit short in our experience. Now, they can overshoot it sometimes too. You have to check each one, and they're all kind of all over the place. A lot of them use different materials and different manufacturing techniques, and they don't really CNC precision machine everything. But what you're seeing here, that this particular model is evidence that the Chinese market has caught up. And I'm just reporting the facts. I would love to see this happen in America too. This is something, however, that in China, just the fact of the matter is, it's very, very inexpensive for them to produce these. China's really got their industrial revolution underway. Labor's a lot more inexpensive over there, and so they can bring these to you at a highly reduced cost that you're going to see in Europe. So you're seeing the same quality of performance that you would see in European optics now coming out of China. And the United States is even more expensive to produce these things, and that's something that might take quite a while to change. So this is a new horse pulling ahead in the race. I'm just reporting what I observed. This is something I was hesitant to report on because I wanted to make darn sure of why and how this was happening. I didn't want to go off half-cocked or use anecdotal experiences as my evidence. I wanted to make sure I had a good enough sample size. I wanted to go through and peruse through all my different notes and observations over all the different classes, also contacting various other folks that are using these optics and seeing how they work. And we were able to actually confirm that all these optics, when you get to the Midas line and above, the new Midas TAC, and you get to the Ares ETR, they're all performing in terms of turret tracking about the same. They're all performing very well. If you have it dead on balls accurate, I don't know how much more accurate you can get. But literally, running on the tracking test, it was perfect. And so that's something that I've always been a stickler on, because there's a lot of software out there that does not allow you to adjust your math in your firing solutions for a scope that is off. And so having a scope that is dead on accurate really simplifies your procedure of how you put in your inputs on your ballistic software, and it's something that's not going to trip you up if you forget to do it. It'll actually give you precise mathematical adjustments, which is something that actually gives you it consistently throughout that entire range as well. Not just at one point or the other where you have a curve in between, but a very, very consistent tracking scope that from every mill is right on. And so there you are, the Ares ETR. Very, very competitively priced scope, made in China. Thought you guys would find that very interesting. I can actually say that with confidence now that these things do seem to be working pretty good. And of course, the market continuously evolves and continuously changes as new players come in, as the different manufacturers compete with one another. But it's hard to beat something that's exactly perfect. So there you go. Check it out. I think these are available. You can check out Athlon's website. Of course, I think Optics Planet would have these. You can find these all over the place. I might even find them over the counter someplace. Check out if you get to see one. Take a look at it. Go ahead and click on those turrets. You will see that you're dealing with a completely different tracking mechanism, a whole different animal, just by clicking on the turrets. And it's something that's very, very, very nicely configured. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Click that little bell button up there. That'll give you our updates. As the market continues to evolve on these things, we're going to continue to report what we see. I hope this was helpful to you, and God bless.
It's nice. I like it.
All right, there should be a hit right here. What are you shooting, the vial?
It's just nice. It's clear. I like it. The reticle is very.
Yeah, it's balanced nice.
I can focus a little bit and see the mirage nice.
Just off the bottom right corner.
Bottom left. All right, which one
Yeah.
are you shooting at, buddy?
Point up.
And considering the price, it's very, very good.
And how much do you say this one costs?
This one is like in the $1,000 price range. They have one with the identical turret tracking, or the identical turrets. That's a 30 millimeter. That's 500, and then they have a Japanese one that's twice, about 2K.
Yeah.
So this is 1,000.
But I mean, for 1,000, it's a very good price for a good clear optic for those people that can't spend much more.
3,000 or 4,000.
Yeah. But for 1,000, it's a killer deal.
And what did you say you paid for it, buddy?
I paid like right around 11.
Okay.
With your discount, of course.
Okay.
I like it. It's good. The reticle is very, very clean.
All right, where are we going?
I mean, I've been all morning looking through
All
lots
these.
of scopes.
Yep.
This is not
That far.
that
behind.
far.
It's like right.
And it's-
nipping at the heels.
Yeah, and it's a very reasonably priced. So
Yeah.
I like it.
Good
because
value, I think.
there has to be a market for upscale products that super perform, but there also has to be a market for very reasonably priced products that perform well. And they may be, of course, not comparable to a PM2. I mean, but nobody expects a $1,000 scope to be as good as a submission bender of $1,000. But if you cannot spend that much, then you say, what do I buy? Because all the basic market right now is going up in price because they're searching performance, and forgetting about the guy that cannot spend $2,000.
Yeah, exactly.
There are many people out there that really $2,000 is a lot of money. So
Yep.
there has to be scopes which
Filling the gap that work good.
work fine.
Yep.
And they have very good clear optics. They may not be the top in the world, but you can get the job done. You can have fun, learn, and save some money in case you want to upgrade to a new rifle. And this is the market of I like Bergars. I mean, they're friends of mine. Very good stuff, and they're very reasonably priced. So basically, this rifle is the example of a rifle that gets the job done, and you're under $2,000.
Absolutely.
So that's the secret.
Nice.
I've never taken a long-range class before, but I can't imagine anybody delivering this much information in this short of a period.
Yeah, it takes a while. After you've been around a while, you kind of accumulate most of this information. Some of it falls by the wayside. Some of it you retain. At least you know it's there, and if you need to use it, you can pull on it.
You cannot miss an opportunity to gain knowledge. You cannot. The guys that are going to talk here, there must be 250 years of experience wandering around in the people that you're going to be exposed to. And I'm talking like hard-earned experience.
Rex is, of course, an absolute natural. He showed us over the years that, so I wasn't surprised to see him perform beautifully because he was born for it. He is naturally an awesome presenter. So whether he does it through YouTube, on video camera, or live, and by the way, congratulations, this is a beyond the full house. I really think some people snack up on you, man. You got to double check on who paid and who didn't, because I see more than 80 people here. I see north of 100 people.
If you have not been studying long range for quite some time, I'm not saying not to come to this class. I'm saying you better put your helmet on. It's gonna go fast. You can't get information like this is gonna happen in this class. You can't get that like anywhere.
He's already well known, and he'll get better and better and better.
But you're right. We have a very strong concentration of people with this much interest and passion. You know, in this one room, everybody's here looking for the best and trying to be the best. And I love it.
And that's the secret to success, too, guys, is surrounding yourself with competent, intelligent, and passionate people.
Yeah.
And you see that a lot in this room, because everybody that gathers together here is because of a love for the sport or the craft and the skill and the art and the science. And you, Mr. Rex, you're kicking some butt up there today, man. You're in the zone.
I'm getting sweatier and sweatier, Lou. Wait until 4 hours from now.
You know, I'm a little scared to get up there. I mean, Rex is such a great speaker in this forum, and I'm thinking, oh man, I'm going to bore these guys to death. But I can tell you one thing I like about these type of forums: when you get guys that admit to being interested in long-range shooting, you're past the guy who swears he can shoot a quarter-inch group with his factory Savage with factory ammo. So these guys, they're not at that point. They've gone past that. They're really serious now, and they really know a lot of this stuff. It's more about how much further can I push my
This is where they've come with
capabilities with more knowledge and more practice and more information.
We'll have a good time. The students will have a good time. You're going to get a tremendous level of information, and there are different levels of knowledge. And when I met Rex, he was really the first guy that I had met that had that kind of tier 1 level of knowledge.
This won't be the last time that you guys do this. This is the best thing that I have seen or been associated with thus far in this industry. This is really good. I think that the guys have learned a lot about this on relative to the topics and how to handle it at the next one that they do. I expect that the next one will be better and better and better, and I think that the guys that go to it are going to benefit and learn a lot.
But you're going to see some amazing things. When this company, as he builds this company and this curriculum, and it goes, I'm telling you, it's going to be a bookmark in American firearms training history. Like something is different over there, what's going on, and people will come from all over.
Hey folks, it's Lou McCoy with the Rex Reviews Project, and we are here in Texas. Holy crap, man.
Yeah.
This has been a lot of fun. I'm here with Jesse and his lovely wife, and what do you guys have to say after the second day?
So we get out here, the first thing we did was check out all of our guns and equipment. We want that solid. We learn the fundamentals, make sure that everybody is doing things like correctly and properly, and that way when we start shooting out the longer distances, we don't we don't have to wonder what's all going on out there, And I think that's really cool, because you feel a lot more confident knowing that you're solid. You got a solid foundation when you start engaging things way out there. So.
And you
I think that's great.
Yeah, man. And you start off really close, and you get all the bugs worked out, and then you work out farther, and it's no big deal. It's easy.
Yeah,
it's easy. So the system works, Mr. Rex. It works, my man.
Just this experience was probably the best shooting experience I've ever had. It was the most I've ever learned, ever. So just getting to shoot out to 1,000, 1,100 yards, and these guys get you out there quick and do it the right way.
But I think it's rolling down off the snow. Right.
No way.
Nah. That's still barely a 2.
Single.
Oh yeah? It's hot air. Nothing.
Yeah, reticle choice and design, I've really learned to, like, that's really important. We always focus on all the other stuff, but reticle design, is very critical.
If you pay attention to those classes and watch those reviews, it'll all come together for you, and this is a place where it all comes together.
Yeah, and you get out in the field and you get to apply all that knowledge and see it in action, and That's gratifying.
Absolutely, and it's the real world issues that that you're really learning here, as opposed to just you get all that technical data, and then you bring it out here to the real world and you put it all together and it works.
The secret Rex taught me about butterfly kisses on the cheek. And
It's actually true?
It was true.
Did it work?
It totally worked.
What?
It totally was. It happened earlier today, and all day I've been just on.
Like I just said a minute ago, yesterday everybody showed up. They were nervous. They didn't know what to expect. And look at the crowd behind us now. It's like a party back there, man. People are just having the time of their lives, and not only having a good time, but making some shots too. Some impressive ones.
They're learning what they come out here with. The dot drills, a lot of the drills that Rex and Paul are having us do, they really make you, get you into shape and make you, do exactly what you did the last time and be consecutive, So I think that's a just super way to start to do this stuff. So.
Yeah, it is. And you lay that solid foundation, and the rest is easy, man.
Yeah, we're just now it's not even really hard to shoot out there. We're shooting out at 1,100 yards, and really not that big a deal now after we, now that we know what to do.
All right, what just happened, man?
I just hit a water bottle at 875 yards.
And you had one shot.
One shot.
That's not bad. So what's the secret, man?
Aim small, miss small.
Amen. Well done, brother.
Thank you.
As long as you pay attention and do what the instructors say, it will all come together as an equation, and the equal sign pops right up.
Name's Edwin from Boston. Traveled out here to Pennsylvania to take the class to shoot past my home range of 600. Shot out to 1030, made some hits. Every time Rex teaches you something new and gets you comfortable, he totally messes with you. Gets you dirty, gets you muddy, makes you roll around in the rain and the mud and the dust. And then he takes your scope and he messes it all up, and he teaches us something new every time. So great time, good guys.
Nice shooting there, Tex.
Thanks, man. Second round hit on the gong and first round hit on Fred. Almost a 1,000-yard shot. That was pretty awesome.
Feels good for first stage of the day, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. I wasn't shooting very good yesterday, but it's good to come back.
Haven't shot past 400 yards until I came to RX-18. Right off the bat, brought us right out to 1,000 yards, gave us some confidence. And after working the range tables, I see no reason why I couldn't hit any target that I knew the true range to and had the dope for, all the way out to and including 1,000 yards.
You're exposing, all the different students, including myself, to some different techniques, pulling from different arenas, whether it be from some application of competition, PRS, NRL kind of things. When we can't always take a prone shot, shooting off of obstacles, from unstable positions.
I came to the RX just to learn everything. It's a great place to be, great people. Learned quite a bit. Got me dialed in at ranges I've never even looked at before.
I've been to RX 17-001 seminar and 001 shooting, and so I had some familiarity, but this is just a lot better. This is what I really enjoy. The instruction is again top notch. We learn any problems we have, we immediately have someone to diagnose the problem. It's because it's so relaxed, the environment, you're constantly learning and you don't even really realize it. I think it's just been an awesome experience, and the knowledge is unbelievable.
Hey, my name's Mitch. I just over here at the Rex Live Fire event. Learned a hell of a lot. I got my rifle zero for 100 yards yesterday, and within a few hours I was hitting 1,030 yards. Past 300 yards in my life, so it's definitely worth the money, definitely worth the trip, the hassle, everything about it's been great. Rex has been great, the crew's been great.
Oh, this has been terrific from my standpoint. We've seen things that we never expected to see. Let me see, we've got one guy, first time ever, at over a mile or whatever, and he's hitting 25, 80.
I think everyone got to a mile, didn't they?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, everyone got to a mile in the whole class relatively easily.
It's really been surprising, and that just shows how the equipment, and it shows how the shooters have progressed learning and with the instruction and all. These guys have had good instruction, and they've just got the job done.
And how far were you shooting?
It was 1 mile.
1 mile, and what were we using here?
300 Win Mag.
300 Win Mag.
But probably not. Watch out, Rex.
So you just hit the 2,500 yard. Like, what's your solution?
It was 116 and a half MOA elevation and 14 MOA windage.
And you had 4 shots.
Yes, sir.
You got in your team?
I had 6, so 10 total to hit 2551.
So tell me the story. How'd you finally spot where you're hitting?
I saw the trace. I saw his trace, and I called it good, but he was about 6 inches off the top right corner of the plate. He made a minor correction, bottom left edge of the plate, and I saw the top of the bullet, but I lost it, but it was an impact. So awesome shot.